already built the name, they open the door for other Israeli companies to get into Brazil. Okay? And if you're not there yet, it's important to say when you do business, major enterprise, mainly with big enterprise, when you do business with them, they will always ask you where you work with who you work in Brazil. So you can't say, no, I work with a company in Argentina or in Mexico. No, they want to know who you work in Brazil because they don't like to be the first and they don't like to take the risk. So it's important that if you don't have any case of an example that you work already in Brazil, you can use Israeli company that is already there, that is in a similar industry to build your argument, okay? Now I'm talking about this massive market, the massive opportunity, but I'm showing you some numbers. We're talking about 250 million, almost 250 million people. It's the 5th largest market. We're talking about 1.8 trillion GDP. It's the 9th world economy. And 8.5 million kilometers, and it's the 5th largest country. And just so you know, the capital of Brazil is not São Paulo, it's not Rio, it's Brasilia, okay? And the language, we don't speak Spanish, we don't speak Brazilian, and believe me, I heard this a lot, we speak Portuguese, yeah? And the currency, the name of the currency is real. 2 reais, 1 real. And it's $1, 4 reais, okay? Do you know how big is Brazil? Can you find Israel there? Yeah, you see here, the little one? Israel is actually the size of the smaller state of Brazil, called Sergipe. That's how big the country is. That's how big the opportunity is. But we are sales business, right? And when we talk about sales, we always want to go to America. We always want to go to United States. Why? Because of the American consumers. They're amazing. We were talking about that. But the Brazilian consumers are also big, and they are ready for tech-based disruption, okay? Look at that. They actually they are the second most intensive internet users in the world. They spend 9.5 hours per day on the internet. That's a lot. And 71% of the Brazilians own a smartphone. But that's not yet. Brazil is also one of actually the second most engaged country in the world. Look at this. Brazil is the second on YouTube, WhatsApp, Uber, and Instagram used to be the same, but the second, but India just passed them last year. And the 4th on Facebook, Netflix, and LinkedIn. And that's just a few examples. I want to read something here. Does anyone here work in e-commerce? Online sales? Okay, so 74% of the Brazilians use the smartphone in at least one of the steps of the online shopping process. Out of this population, 32% use mobile device to search for products and service, 28% to compare price, and 14% to make payments. That's 22 million people doing payments on their devices. So fintech, it's a great market for you guys. It's people ready, and you think, okay, in America everyone is using Apple Pay, Google Pay, but I don't think you can imagine that in Brazil they're all using their smartphones for everything. Okay, that's also a big opportunity. And look at this number. This is great. 39% of the population was classified as early adopters of digital apps. One of the highest proportion in the world and a top market for innovation app. So if you're a startup, like why not, and you have an idea, why not doing a POC in Brazil? That's a good opportunity. But you guys are not alone. I know Israel is the startup nation, but the startup is booming in Brazil. Last year, 2019, was the year of the unicorns. There were actually 13 unicorns in Brazil. I know it's written 11, but last month we had 2 more, eBanks and XP. XP actually did an IPO, the biggest Brazilian IPO in NASDAQ, $15 billion. Most of those companies are fintech. Okay, fintech is growing a lot. Gym Pass is fitness. iFood is food delivery, of course. Log is also delivery. Ascent is data center. Arco is education. And wildlife is games. Okay, so also with Iron Source, we used to work a lot with wildlife. But that's not only it's not a coincidence that 2019 was the year of the unicorn. It's a combination of a stable government and stable economy, and bringing back the trust of the investors. SoftBank just last year opened a $5 billion fund in South America. They invested on 14 companies. 10 of them were from Brazil. 4 of them, it's part of the unicorns. So there's a lot of things happening, and I actually took this comment from Luisa Helena. She's the chairwoman of Magazine Luiza. It's one of the biggest retail company in Brazil. And she summarized what I'm trying to say here, and I'm gonna read for you. All indications point to 2020 being a year of gradual economy recovery. The adjustment and reforms required for economic growth are moving, such as the pension reform and Congress efforts for tax reform. As a result, some planned investments should start flowing in, and increased employment should drive economic growth. That shows the opportunity. Brazil is coming back, and it's coming back strong, and the government it has this in their agenda. I have 3 points that they're actually focusing for 2020, mainly control against corruption, the tax reform, and trade liberalization. Why this is important? Because it tackles exactly the barrier to do business with Brazil. I'm going to talk about the challenges of how to do business in Brazil in the next slide. And actually the government is focusing on making it a bit better. But before that, I want to show you some headlines in the news. Look at that. The country risk of Brazil is the lowest since 2013. The interest rate is the lowest in history. And that's the best. 0 taxes on 3,112 imported products. That means a lot of products that they are importing, it's now 0 taxes. It's mainly machineries and equipments, computer and telecommunication goods. Those are the ones on the 0 taxes. It's just funny, when Steve Jobs was alive, he said once, a while ago, that he would never open an Apple store in Brazil, because the iPhone in Brazil was the most expensive in the world because of taxes. Taxes is just crazy in Brazil. And that comes the main challenge. We actually do have a name for that. It's a term that refers to the real extra cost of doing business with Brazil. It's corruption, governmental inefficiency, legal and bureaucratic complication, excessive taxation, inflation, a lot of balagan. But I actually want to highlight 3 of them. Bureaucracy, I have to read because it's kind of a bit of a data. Brazil was ranked 124th out of 190 countries by the World Bank rank of ease of doing business. It's very hard to do business with Brazil because of all this bureaucracy. So if you're thinking about going there, you cannot do it alone. Don't think, I'm Israeli, I can do it, I'll manage. No, you have to hire a middleman. You have to have someone there to help you, who knows the market and knows how to make things going, okay? Corruption. I'm not talking about the big corrupted balagan of the government. I'm talking about the corruption and bribery are still obstacles in big enterprise. Massive enterprise. It's all politics over there. So they're still corrupting and they're still bribing. So it's something that the government is working with that to ease. And Brazil actually was ranked 105th out of 180 countries of the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index in 2018. But the worst is the taxes. Okay, taxes is just, whoever did any transaction with Brazil knows that taxes is just a nightmare. They have 90 taxes, duties, and contributions charged in Brazil. 90. And that's not like a general tax. You have state tax, you have federal tax, you have municipality tax. It's just a big mess. That's why the tax reform, it's something that we all looking for it. And the government start doing this right now. Okay, Tov. Now is the fun part. I talk about the opportunities, I talk about the challenges, but now I want to talk about how to do business with Brazil. Sorry. Okay. Business structure. So Brazilian, when I'm talking about, it's mainly enterprise, the big companies, okay? But you can reflect them to all the different type of companies. But the business structure is very hierarchical, okay? You need to have a good understanding of the corporate structure. Don't waste your time with someone that don't have the power to decide anything, okay? The organization chart, the chart of the organization might not reflect exactly how the power flows in the company, okay? Because there's a lot of politics and there's a lot of relationship alliance. It's a big web of politics. So you need to understand everything, you need to understand that, and you need to understand who are the decision makers, and then you need to work on them. Meetings. You always shows on time. You have to be there on time, but they will always be late. Meetings in Brazil will always start late, no matter what. Do not think you can do 4 meetings in a day. It's impossible. You're gonna do one in the morning, one in the afternoon, a lunch and a dinner, okay? And meetings will take long. If the meeting is good, it will take 1, 2, 3 hours, okay? Why? Because the small talk. They want to talk, they want to get to know you, and use this opportunity to get to know them. Relationship is the most important thing for Brazilian. Friendship, relationship, you need to get to know their families, you need to get to know their hobbies, you need to connect with them, okay? You get this trust, you build this friendship, you can start doing business with them. Sorry. Communication. English. A lot of people speak English in Brazil, but don't assume that everyone speaks, okay? They hate, actually, to speak English. Well, if it's not your language, it's like there are 215 million people, they say they speak Portuguese, but okay, they do speak English. Don't assume everyone speaks English. If you're going to a face-to-face meeting, make sure that everyone there speaks English, otherwise hire a translator, okay? Bring a translator to work with you. And emails. When you write them emails or presentation, a lot of, you see here, I didn't put a lot of text. Because if you write them a lot of text, they're not gonna read. Forget about it. Documents, words, no one is gonna read it. So book a video call, book a face-to-face meeting, and present to them. Go through the presentation with them, because otherwise they will ignore you. They'll say, okay, this English email, I'm not gonna deal with that. Put it on the side, put it on the side, and then you're like waiting, nothing is happening. It's just because he doesn't wanna deal with that. And if you wanna send a cold email, like on LinkedIn, because that's the main tool, if you wanna send a cold email to someone that you wanna do a small pitch, don't write in English. I do recommend you to get the message very short, use Google Translation and send it. They will reply to you, and then you say, sorry, I don't speak Portuguese, but can I get a call? And then I can explain what is my product. I did that a lot in Spanish, because I speak Spanish, but I don't know how to write. So I wanted to reach Latin America, so I'll send like a short message in Spanish. They'll reply right back to me, and I'm like, sorry, my Spanish not that good, I'm Brazilian, but can we talk? You know, so use this, because no one likes to read, and that's how it works in Brazil. Dress code, okay? It's very important to be formal. If you go to, depending on your level, you have to wear a tie. I know Israelis don't even probably own a tie, but if you go into an executive meeting, you have to wear a tie. And even though if you go there and you say, I was the only one wearing a tie, I don't care. You have to show, because the first impression matters a lot, okay? And then women also need to smart casual, and unfortunately have to have the nails done all the time. It's true. Nails done and makeup, because they look, they really take care of their appearance, okay? Entertaining, that's the fun part. Brazilians love to party, also Israelis, right? But don't think a lunch will take an hour. No, it can take 2 hours, and dinner can take 3 hours. It would take long, but they don't like during meals to talk about business. They don't like. They're gonna sit, they're gonna talk about life, they're gonna talk about everything. They're not gonna talk about business. So don't be impatient, and don't be trying to push business conversation during meal times. No, talk to them, get to know them, build a relationship. If they open the door to talk about business, yeah, you say it. If you, during the meal time, you find out who is the person actually the decision maker, in the end, you say that 3-4 sentence, yeah, we're gonna talk about it, and then move on, okay? But don't push business in meal. Meal is for entertainment. And also social events, they will schedule a time. You're gonna show up on time, but it will start very late, okay? It's something, it's unbelievable. I think I live here and I'm always on time, and I go back, sometimes I forget about it. You can wait, but use this opportunity to get to know the people. It's important. Closing the deal. So, okay, nice, you close the deal, and now you think, okay, everything is done. No, your solution, your software needs to be ready, it needs to be localized, it needs to be in Portuguese. Don't think you're gonna give a product in English. No, it has to be in Portuguese. It has to be aligned with the Brazilian regulation. And you have to have local support. If you can't have local support, hire someone there for local support, okay? You don't close a deal if you don't have this Brazilian ready structure. And if you don't have it yet, you're just doing a project or a POC or a test, you tell them a plan that you're gonna have it ready by that day. Otherwise, it's not gonna work, okay? Building relationship. As I said, relationship comes first, second, and third in Brazil. Waste your time and waste your effort to build a relationship. Not waste. Make your time. It's not a waste of resources, sorry. Because once you get them and they're with you, they will sell your company to everyone inside of the corporation. They will sell you to the top, to the bottom. They will be with you, and they also recommend you. And also you're gonna get a good friend. And when you travel to Brazil for tourists, you're gonna have a good friend to recommend you the good stuff there. Okay, relationship is very important. And one thing I forgot to say, about the meetings. Sometimes you go to these meetings and you say, okay, that's amazing, they love me, they think our product is amazing, it was a great meeting, 3 hours. You don't close the deal like that. Brazilians, they're very emotional, they really like to talk, they really like to hug you, and they really like to go with you. But the next day, they're back to their work, they're back to their desk, they forgot about you. You have to keep the relationship. You have to keep bugging them, and you have to keep continues talking with them, otherwise you're not going to be relevant, okay? That's important. So in summary, I talked about the market opportunity. Brazil is rising again, it's growing, it's a massive market for all the industries, there are like a lot of reports, there's a lot of information out there. Nothing of 2-3 years ago, it's what's happening now. This year was 2019 was a big change of Brazil, and 2020 you guys gonna see Brazil is gonna grow a lot, and the connection with Brazil and Israel it hasn't been better. So take this opportunity, okay? Barriers to entry, taxes and bureaucracy. If you want to go to Brazil, talk to a middleman. Talk to someone that knows the market. You can talk to us at IBI, you can talk to someone local, but don't do it alone, okay? You're just gonna waste your time and you waste your money. And how to do business? Relationship, relationship, relationship. with every point of contact. The manager, the VP, the C-level, everyone, okay? That's it. Any questions? Yes.
Would you say that it's possible to do business remotely with Brazil?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes. Luckily here in Israel, we have a lot of a big Brazilian community. You can do it in English, but if you see that there's a big potential, and if you see that there's a problem with the language, hire a Brazilian here, and you can do it remotely. It's great.
So I once was working with a Brazilian TV station. We were working on a really big deal with them.
Which global?
Global, yeah. And the deal fell through specifically because of the taxes in Brazil, and because there was also an issue because of getting money out of the country.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. All the because Global is a massive company, but when you talk with enterprise, they're all massive companies. By law, they cannot pay outside of Brazil. It's a law. So you have to have a local business number, okay, a VAT number. So if you can't do that, you have to work through a middleman. It's the law. They can't send the money outside. And for like ad tech or people who pays, I'm out of time? No? Yeah? Okay, sorry. That's it.
So just quickly, so would you say that if you were choosing a Brazilian strategy or Brazil as your entry point into the Latin American market, that you should look to do a channel partner relationship?
Yeah, not necessarily like China. China is a channel partnership. Not necessarily. You can go to someone that does the bridge between Brazil. Depend on your business.
What should you expect to pay in fees?
It's a negotiation, but
Yeah,
it could
I mean,
be from
10%, 20%.
up to 20%. No more than
okay.
that. No more than that.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Obrigada, and that's my email. If you guys.
Thank you. All right, up next is Ari Kellerman. Now, I have a little story about Ari.